So I had a couple people ask if I've been able to cut brass on my 3018. And that's a good question, because although these routers are best suited for softer materials, I have had some success cutting aluminum, albeit slowly. However, aluminum tends to be softer compared to brass, with brass alloys having the addition of zinc, which makes them a little bit harder. And in my case, I'm using H59 Brass, which will definitely be on the harder side. However, my primary concern right now isn't necessarily the hardness, it's how twisted my stock material is. Placing it on the table, you can see it's not flat. But we'll worry about that later, and for now let's talk about the setup for the project. I modeled a quick little bottle opener shape, and I'll be using a 2D contour cut with Fusion 360 as the cam. For speeds and feeds, I couldn't really find much doing research for this machine, probably for good reason. So I'll admit, I just kinda guessed it based off of similar settings that I used for aluminum. With the benefit of hindsight, next time around, I think I would reduce the step down for shallower passes. I also made a mistake not doing a facing operation, considering that the workpiece isn't flat, which will cause our bit to engage more material than it should, which created issues on our first pass. But in the meantime, I'll send the code using the Universal G-Code Sender, and let's see what happens. The first pass was absolutely brutal, and again that was my mistake, since the slant in the stock caused the bit to engage too much material. And looking at the video, I realized the workpiece even shifted a little bit, which of course throws everything off. When I got eye level with the piece, I realized I should have been more cognizant to make sure the bit is engaging perpendicular to the stock. But on the bright side, after the first uneven pass cleared the way, it seemed to be cutting alright. And we didn't break any bits, which I've done before with previous mistakes. Now brass is a low friction material, but I did try adding a little bit of cutting oil, and it seemed to sound a bit better, although marginally. Coming up on our last pass, I did add a bit of an offset to let it cut into the spoil board, since again our stock isn't even in height. In total, it took just a little over 20 minutes to cut through 4mm of stock. Looking at the top of the piece, it's quite apparent how twisted the stock was, but we did manage to cut through it. And we didn't break any bits, so I'll consider that a success. But I am curious, since it was designed to be a bottle opener, let's try opening a bottle. So overall, we were able to cut through the brass. It was a little harder than aluminum, but I think most of our issues were due to user error. I think the biggest takeaway is to make sure our bit engages with the material at 90 degrees, otherwise our passes, which are supposed to be shallow, might be facing more material than it's meant to. But regardless, I had fun, gotta learn something, and thank you for watching.